On television, space missions look like triumph and wonder. In classified debriefs and astronaut testimonies, the picture shifts. Bodies falling apart from radiation exposure, crews pushed past psychological limits, reports edited before reaching the public, near disasters rewritten as minor technical glitches. The agencies needed the world to believe in heroes, so the hard truths stayed locked in filing cabinets. Some astronauts kept quiet for decades, others talked when they had nothing left to lose. I'm going to share 20 censored facts from space missions that someone wanted buried. Subscribe to our channel and keep watching for videos posted every week. Number 1, in the early days of spaceflight, nobody told the public what happened to the human body in zero gravity. Gemini and Apollo astronauts came back with bones that had lost up to 20% of their density in just 2 weeks. Muscles shrank, hearts weakened. NASA doctors documented it in medical files that stayed classified for years. The press showed smiling crews in parades. The infirmary showed men who could barely stand without help. Some never fully recovered. The agency called it acceptable risk. The astronauts called it the price nobody mentioned. Number 2, radiation exposure became the quiet killer. Outside Earth's magnetic field, cosmic rays pass through spacecraft walls like they're not there. Apollo crews absorbed doses that would trigger immediate evacuation protocols in any nuclear plant. Records show elevated cancer rates among early astronauts, but the studies stayed internal. When researchers tried to publish findings in the 1970s, the data was reclassified. The public heard about moon rocks and American flags. The medical charts told a different story. Number 3, bodily functions in space became a daily humiliation. The waste management systems on early missions failed constantly. Astronauts dealt with floating waste, leaking bags, and infections that spread in confined quarters. Apollo 8 astronauts reported stomach problems and vomiting that nearly compromised the mission. The recordings exist. Most were never released. The agency preferred the image of calm professionals, not sick men trapped in a metal can 200,000 miles from help. Number 4, sleep deprivation experiments pushed crews past safe limits. On Skylab missions in the early 1970s, astronauts were scheduled for grueling work cycles with minimal rest. Some logged fewer than 4 hours of sleep for days at a time. The psychological toll showed up in mission transcripts, tense exchanges, irritability, and moments of confusion. Ground control documented it all. When journalists asked about crew performance, the answer was always the same. Everything nominal. The transcript said otherwise. Number 5, medical footage from early missions was edited before public release. Film showing astronauts struggling with disorientation, nausea, and physical weakness was cut from official archives. A 1969 internal memo referenced removing sequences that might cause concern among the public and future astronaut candidates. The footage existed, then it didn't. What survived was the version that sold the dream, not the one that showed the cost. Number 6, near disasters were rewritten as minor incidents. Before Apollo 1, engineers warned about faulty wiring and flammable materials in the command module. Memos circulated, concerns were raised. The fire that killed 3 astronauts in 1967 was preventable. Internal documents showed the warnings had been ignored or buried. The agency investigated itself. Some records were sealed for decades. The lesson got repeated with Challenger and Columbia. Different decade, same silence. Number 7, psychological breakdowns in orbit were handled quietly. On at least 2 shuttle missions, astronauts experienced severe anxiety and dissociation that required ground intervention. The incidents never made the press. Crew members were rotated out of future flights with vague explanations about scheduling. One astronaut later described feeling like the agency wanted to pretend it never happened. Mental health was a liability, not a concern. Number 8, whistleblowers paid the price. Engineers and flight surgeons who raised safety concerns found their careers stalled or ended. After Challenger, some spoke to investigators only to face retaliation and isolation. One NASA contractor who warned about O-ring failures was reassigned and eventually pushed out. The message was clear. Loyalty to the mission meant silence about the risks. Number 9, classified military payloads flew on shuttle missions without full crew knowledge. Astronauts sometimes learned what they were carrying only after launch. Defense Department manifests were sealed. When crews asked questions, the answer was need to know. Some missions had entire orbits blacked out from public tracking. The agency smiled for cameras. The astronauts flew blind. Number 10, leaked documents confirmed what insiders suspected. In 2004, a former flight surgeon released files showing that radiation and health data had been systematically underreported for decades. The agency denied it, then quietly revised its safety guidelines. The people who had already flown those missions never got an apology. They got a revised chart and a thank you for their service. Number 11, astronauts reported seeing things they couldn't explain. Gordon Cooper described tracking a glowing object during Mercury 9. Buzz Aldrin mentioned unusual lights following Apollo 11. When they brought it up in debriefs, the response was polite dismissal. Official transcripts were edited. Some recordings went missing entirely. Decades later, a few surfaced in private collections. The agency's position was simple. Astronauts were trained observers, except when they saw something inconvenient. What they witnessed stayed off the record, but they kept talking to anyone who would listen. Number 12, footage vanished from archives without explanation. A 1972 Apollo mission returned with film showing an unidentified object in lunar orbit. The footage was logged, reviewed, and then disappeared. Freedom of Information requests came back empty. Former technicians confirmed the film existed. The agency said it couldn't locate the material. The same thing happened with tapes from shuttle missions in the 1980s. The pattern was consistent. If it raised questions, it got lost. Number 13. Astronaut deaths under unclear circumstances were handled quietly. In 1967, Ed White, Gus Grissom, and Roger Chaffee died in the Apollo 1 fire. Grissom had been openly critical of the program's safety failures. Some colleagues believed that made him a target. The official investigation blamed an electrical spark. Grissom's family never accepted the findings. His son later called it a cover-up. Whether accident or negligence, the questions never got answered. Number 14. Experiments were conducted on crews without full disclosure. Astronauts on long-duration missions discovered they were subjects in medical studies they hadn't agreed to. Blood draws, tissue samples, and radiation monitoring went beyond standard protocol. Some learned the details only when reviewing their own files decades later. The agency treated them as data points. Consent was assumed, not requested. The studies continued. Asha, number 15. Cold War secrets shaped what astronauts could say. Some Apollo missions carried classified reconnaissance equipment. Crew members were briefed only on what they needed to operate the hardware. What they photographed over Soviet territory stayed in military vaults. When astronauts wrote memoirs, entire chapters were redacted before publication. The space race was never just science. It was intelligence, and the astronauts were instruments. Number 16, long-term health damage followed the heroes home. Astronauts who flew multiple missions reported chronic fatigue, vision problems, and bone conditions that never fully healed. Some developed cancers consistent with radiation exposure. When they filed for disability or medical support, the paperwork stalled. Benefits were denied or delayed for years. The agency celebrated their service in ceremonies while fighting their claims in administrative offices. Number 17, deathbed confessions revealed what silence had cost. Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14 astronaut, spent his final years speaking about encounters and cover-ups he said were real. Other astronauts confirmed similar conversations in private, but refused to go public. They had pensions to protect, families to shield. When they finally talked, it was too late for investigations. The truth came out in hospice rooms, not hearing rooms. Number 18, declassified documents confirmed decades of deception. In 2017, files released under disclosure laws showed that NASA had tracked multiple anomalous encounters and kept them from public reports. Internal memos discussed how to handle media inquiries without admitting the sightings. The strategy was delay and deny. By the time the records came out, the people who could have answered questions were gone. Number 19, astronaut memoirs were edited before publication. Publishers received letters from agency lawyers outlining what could and couldn't be included. Passages about equipment failures, crew tensions, and unexplained sightings were removed. Some authors fought back and lost. Others accepted the cuts to get their stories out at all. What the public read was the approved version, not the whole truth. Number 20. The image stayed clean while the cost stayed hidden. For decades, the space program sold a story of triumph and human achievement. The astronauts carried that image while dealing with damaged bodies, broken trust, and secrets they were told to keep. Some are still alive, still waiting for acknowledgement. Others took what they knew to the grave. The flags are still on the moon. The files are still in locked cabinets. And that says a lot about what silence is worth.